Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this talk today. We are really excited to invite George Castleberry to give us a little birding by ear presentation. And George was born in 1986 with cerebral palsy. He was later diagnosed as being legally blind, and his family realized he had a perfect pitch at the age of 3. And he was always interested in music. George took piano lessons, trombone lessons, and was a member of various choirs. And he started playing harmonica at age 14 and now is a graduate of Laurel High School in 2004 and Slippery Rock University in 2008. And he earned a degree in early learning and child development and also minored in Spanish. And now he volunteers at the National Aviary in Pittsburgh on Mondays as a docent and also has played his harmonica at various retirement facilities in nearby counties. And George previously presented programs at several camps and preschool facilities. And before the pandemic, he also worked 1 day a week as a preschool teacher at the Beaver County YMCA. And so George is here to share some of his knowledge about birding by ear and give us a little bit of a quiz to test our knowledge. And I hope you guys enjoy. And please reach out if you have any questions for George. We would be happy to link you guys up. Thanks.
I have accumulated bird sound recordings from all over the world. This has helped me to be able to identify bird sounds from all over the world, from many places. My knowledge of exotic bird sounds is mainly used whenever I go to visit zoos and other aviaries. Knowing the local bird sounds has benefited not only me, but the scientific community as well. For 5 years, an ornithologist, friend of mine named Bob, ran a bird banding station on our property. This was from 1996 to 2000. And Bob and I collected data on many different bird species that migrated through our station during both spring and fall migration. In high school, as Roger said, I'm a member of the Bartramian Audubon Society. I joined there in high school, and that's the local branch of the National Audubon Society, in case any of you didn't know. And there I received a certificate of recognition for establishing my property as both a bird and butterfly and a wildlife sanctuary. I continue my membership with them and participate in birding activities such as the Big Day Bird Count May 2020, where my family and I collected data from a number of locations, and that data was shared with our group as well as submitted nationally.
George, I noted in your biography, and you said yourself that you're involved with the National Aviary. How did that come about?
Well, I graduated in May 2008 from Slippery Rock University with a degree in early learning and child development. And as part of my graduation requirements, I did an internship at the National Aviary in Pittsburgh. And I was there every day that summer from logging 480 hours of field work. After completing my internship, I continue to volunteer my time at the aviary on Mondays as a docent. And my job as a docent is to go around to the exhibits that we have and answer any questions that the visitors might have about our collection. And for those of you, I'm just going to give you the statistics we have over 550 birds, and that represents over 160 species from all over the world. I've also collected data for special projects associated with the National Aviary, such as a study that was done near Olympia Park, which is a part of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, near Mount Washington, as part of the Greenways project. I also wrote a short article that was requested by the director of animal programs at the time about my observations regarding gender identification and pitch with a bird called the Fire-tufted Barbet, which is a species native to Asia that used to be in our collection. And I know somebody had posted a picture of one of those a couple of days ago, and I saw that, and that was really nice.
Before you go on, can you repeat the name of that species?
That species called a Fire-tufted Barbet.
Oh, okay.
So moving on, I was also asked to compile a document that had the phonetics and mnemonics for every bird at the aviary to help the volunteers and staff learn the bird sounds. And I also collected data of the birds I heard near West Park, Allegheny Commons West, which is near the National Aviary.
George, I'm really impressed with the story about how you identified the gender of the Fire-tufted Barbets when nobody else in the aviary could. Could you tell us that?
I would be glad to. Well, we had a pair of these birds, and previously the only way to tell what gender they were is by doing a DNA test. And I don't know if there's a picture of one up on the screen or not, but males and females look the same. So I noticed a slight difference in pitch, with the female being higher in pitch than the male. I spent a lot of time in the room with these birds, and once their chicks hatched, I felt I knew their gender. So, and when the DNA tests come back, I was correct 4 birds out of 4. We had 4 different chicks hatched from this pair. So that's why I was asked to write that paper.
Yeah, I can understand why the director of that program chose to do that. Now, I understand that you and your mom, Bonnie, have been hard at work at preparing a quiz to test our knowledge of bird sounds. I know that we have a wide variety of skill level in our audience as far as identifying bird sounds. So that's why I'm going to ask you to do this. As they play each bird, there'll be a number, and then they'll play the bird. If you would send me privately what you think the bird is, and you could be wildly wrong. That's all right, because nobody's going to know but me, and I ain't telling. So if you want to do that, test your knowledge. Some of them are fairly common and easy. Some of them are a little challenging. Well, not a little. Some of them are pretty challenging. So we'll see how that goes. I understand you have 21 birds to test us on. When you hear the sound, put your guess in the chat, and I will be looking.
Okay, so we should be good to go here.
Yes. Okay, so can you name this bird by its
So-
sound?
So, all right, so here we go. We starting with your state bird here.
Oh, you gave too much away. Okay, that's good. And all the guesses I have are correct. That is indeed a cardinal. Anything you want to tell us about that sound, George?
Well, the northern cardinal, obviously, I gave you too much information there. Is your state bird, so I thought that was a good one to start with. Very common one. I hear it around here too. Yeah,
Okay.
let me go to the next one.
We ready to go to 2? Okay, it looks like everybody. Megan heard something else in the background. Everybody said it was a red-winged blackbird. Megan Script said with a common yellowthroat. So
You got yeah, that's
was that in there too?
yeah, that was in there too.
Anything,
I wasn't.
anything we should know about the red-winged blackbird?
Well, let me see. What do we? I have the phonetics, and this is where I told you we were going to get into phonetics. The phonetics that I use for this is Concaree and Okale. So another common one there's tons of them up where I'm from.
Yeah, they're here too now.
Yeah. So going on to the next one here.
Yeah. Number 3. I've got one guess. Keep going. Second guess.
One.
Keep going. Ooh.
You see what we're writing in the chat?
Okay. What is it, George?
That is a Carolina Wren. Did we?
Most people had it right. And Megan said an NOCA in the background. Megan, what is an NOCA? Oh, Northern Cardinal. Okay.
Northern. I see I see what you're using banding alpha codes. I haven't seen those for years. Okay.
Carolina Wren. Now I understand that the next one is going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, the next one's going to be similar. Now what? Now, but now listen for. Now listen. Now what you're listening for is the crescendo in the middle of the song. very subtle, but it is still there. It is
Okay. I have several correct guesses. I think that's a tough one. What was that?
an ovenbird.
Okay.
Um,
And
now the song on that one is teacher, 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 teacher. With a gradual crescendo. Remember, so so the so the Carolina Wren does not have the crescendo. So if you're in the field and you hear something that doesn't have a crescendo but still has that, still sounds like that, that's the Carolina Wren. If the crescendo is there and it increases, that's the Ovenbird.
okay. Let's move on.
Great. We good?
It's coming.
That one is soft.
That one's kind of soft here, yeah.
Ah,
We
ah.
Kind of went ahead.
Several people picked it up. What is it, George?
the yellow warbler.
Okay.
Now, now there's a mnemonic that I use for this one is sweet, 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 little more sweet.
Good. And I also got sweet, sweet, sweeter than sweet from one person in the audience. So
Sweet, sweet, sweeter than sweet.
yeah,
I
you don't hear that, do you?
yeah. Whatever works for you, whatever works for you. That's the thing about mnemonics, is that you can hear you you and I, Roger, could be listening to the same bird, but we could hear it from two different perspectives,
True enough.
you know. So moving on to the next one.
So far, we've stumped them. Ah,
Yeah,
Guessing.
okay. George, what is it?
that's a common yellowthroat.
Ah, very good. Great job, Megan.
Didn't
Yeah, Megan got it. She gets them all.
what? I use witchety, 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 witch for that one.
It sounds different to me out in the open than it did on that recording. For some
Yeah, yeah, that's another one where you could hear it differently. Like, and that's one of those ones that, and we'll get to that when we get to another bird. What? That's one of those ones that can vary by region. But if you remember the song, that'll help you.
Yeah, Sarah Johnson said they sound somewhat different in the Midwest, and I think that is also true. That maybe that's a different dialect.
What are we doing?
Right, next one.
Are we ready for the
Ready
next
to move
one?
on to 7. I think the majority of the group has this one. What is it, George?
That's an American robin.
Okay.
Now, keep the robin song in mind as we listen to the next three species.
Okay.
Because
Sorry. I realize I can see all the slides. Go too far.
Good job. Oh, the team got it, George, so far. You want to tell us what it is?
that's a rose-breasted grosbeak.
And how do we tell the difference?
Well, the rose-breasted grosbeak sounds like a robin that's been taking singing lessons.
Ah,
So it gives the song more expression if you think about it. Now, plus there's more phrases added to the robin,
okay.
added to the grosbeak.
Okay.
You know, for you know. What are you doing?
Why I have to do it because of an accident.
Okay, we ready for 9?
Yep. Now again, keep the robin song in mind as we listen to this. Did everybody?
We have a number of good guesses, and somebody picked up the thrush in the background as well.
Oh, the wood thrush in the background. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
what was this bird?
But the main bird was a Scarlet Tanager.
Most people got it. Sarah Johnson said it's a robin with a sore throat, which I think you were going to say, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. You must use the same. You must use the same phonetics as I do. Do you use the same phonetics as I do?
She says she did. She does. And haha.
Okay, on to the next one here. Let's see.
Is this the same? Is this another riff on the robin? Kind of another variation?
No, we're
Oh,
done.
We're done with those guys. Okay.
We're done with those guys.
Interesting.
What do we have?
Most people guessed chickadee. Some people went out on a limb and called it black-capped chickadee.
Well,
Somebody said an angry tufted titmouse, which I thought was pretty good.
Could be, but those of you that went out on a limb and said black-capped chickadee, you got it.
Okay, good.
And that's our and here's our next one. What are we doing?
Let's take care of it.
Whoops.
So,
Go back to 11.
Yeah.
There we go.
what are we doing? There we go.
My dudes.
What's that?
Somebody wrote my dudes. People are struggling on this a little bit.
Okay. Okay, should I?
You're good.
Okay, so
One,
this is,
one person got it. One person got it right. You want to tell us what it is?
this is a Carolina chickadee.
Okay.
So-
So what's the difference?
So the difference is Carolina is faster, is higher pitch, and
Okay.
higher pitch.
Okay.
Can we, if,
Do we want to play those two again? Play 10 first and then
let me,
11?
okay, yeah, we can go back to 10 and play 10 first and then, okay, so here's your black cap.
It's slower.
It's slower, yeah.
And then the Carolina. 11.
And then the Carolina.
Oh, wow. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and then just to show you, I have a picture. You can see these guys side by side. And they look very, very similar. But the black cat, the way I remember, and I don't have an audio of the songs, but the black cap, and I'm sure most of you have heard this, is, you know, that's two noted. And then the Carolina is 4 note. B B B bay. So you have, so black capped is Phoebe, and then Carolina is Phoebe B bay. So, but you can imagine, but on the Carolina, you guys, I think, are on the north, like the, what's like the very northern edge of the Carolinas range. Okay. Can we go to the next one here?
Yes.
All right, so going to the next one here.
Ooh. Somebody's guessing that on the drumming.
What did they get?
I'm not going to tell you yet. Other people are still guessing.
Go hit the audio. again.
Somebody picked up an indigo bunting in the background. A couple people picked up an indigo in the background.
Yeah.
So I've got Downey and Flicker. What is it?
Red-headed. If we can go back to the audio, can we go back
Yes.
to the audio? I want you to listen to the whole audio here.
Okay.
Now what you're going to listen for is when it starts calling, it's going to sound like it's starting with a QU sound, like queer. There you go. Listen. You hear how there's not that much of an inflection to it either.
So kind of a flat
It's
sound.
kind of a flat, raspy call. Queer.
Okay.
Now, let's move to our next one. We can.
You got that part.
Did anybody get it?
Yeah, they got red-bellied. Is that right?
Yeah, it is a red-bellied. How did,
They're good. There's a lot of good birders in there.
yeah.
So how do you tell the difference?
Okay, well, um, red-bellied to me sounds like it's asking a question. Okay, there's an up, there's a, there's more of an upward inflection, so it would be sure, sure, or chur, you know, whereas the red-headed is flat. Well, we can go back to the audio. We can go back to the audio here. Um,
1, 2 on the other.
yeah, go back to the red-headed for just a minute. We're going back. I'm going back to the audio for the red-headed for just a minute. Okay, so now did you hear how that was just the flat call, queer? Whereas when you go back, now let's go back to the red-bellied. See if you guys can pick out the upward. Can anybody hear that?
They're all muted, George. So I think
Okay.
they said yes.
All right. So, all right, we'll move on here. Now, hit that one.
I don't know.
Did anybody get this one?
We've got a number of people that have said Downey, although Sarah says the one in the background is really interesting.
What was it?
I don't even know. I don't even know what it was talking about. But yeah, this is a Downey Woodpecker. And the way you remember it is the song descends. So descend Downey. So you think descend equals Downey.
Okay.
All right.
Next one.
So this one here got 3 different dialects here. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Here's the next. Here's number 2. And let's wait a minute for the number 3. Did anybody get this one?
A number of people said song sparrow. One person said indigo bunting.
Well, song sparrow is right.
Okay.
I like to use the mnemonic maids, put on your key, kettle, lettle. and this and this one's and that'll help me remember this one. Now the reason I had three different different recordings on that one is, again, dialect variation. So we ready? So ready for the next one here. This is an easy one. Everybody should get this.
Yep, I think they've got that one.
American crow. Yep.
And not
This
fish
is
crow, someone pointed out. So,
what's that?
and not fish crow, someone pointed out.
Yeah, not the fish crow. The fish crow. I don't even know. Are we even in the breeding range for that one? I don't even have a field guide in front of me. But they're rare. The
Yeah,
fish crow.
we may have had one in the area this week.
Okay.
So anyway,
Anyway. I'm going to challenge your ear with these next four, actually.
looks like most people are saying chipping sparrow.
Well, you're close. It's a swamp sparrow.
Ah,
It's the only one. Now these next four that we're doing, all the songs are trills.
okay.
So this one, so the swamp is the only one in the group that you would hear birding a wetland area. Okay.
George, I'm going to interrupt for just a second. Bonnie, can you increase your volume on the display down there? It's a little soft for us.
Yes, I'll turn it all the way up.
Well, you don't have to turn it all the way up, but turn it up a good bit.
Did that help? Well, you'll know in a minute, I guess.
Yeah, I think more than that. More.
I think I'm as high as I can be.
Okay, try playing that again, 17 again.
What are we doing? I may have picked a bad recording.
That's as high as we're going to get, looks like. Okay.
So anyway, so this is the swamp sparrow.
Okay, and it is slower.
Yeah, it's slower. And my recordings and my recordings on the swamp sparrow use the word reedy. R-E-E-D-Y.
Okay.
To describe it. So yeah, now we're ready for the next one here.
People are saying chipping sparrow, right?
Chipping sparrow. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, so the chipping sparrow, um, what is more of a rattle, sustained on one pitch. And it's often heard if you're birding in an open woodland, like no water. I mean, there could be water, but more of a open habitat type bird. All right, 19.
Hmm. Somebody said, "Oh boy, he's in sparrow territory now, and I know nothing."
Well,
Okay, I've got a guess of a palm warbler and dark-eyed junco.
well, dark-eyed junco. Whoever said that is right.
Okay, and somebody asked if there was a veery in the back.
Um, I
Listen again.
let me listen again. There may be. Let me play the audio again.
I hear a black-capped chickadee.
No, you know what? That's a hermit thrush in the back.
Oh, it was? Okay. It was a hermit.
We should have done we should have done the thrushes, and I didn't even think of it.
Well, there's only so much time.
Um, but
We do part 2 someday and I can practice.
we could do part 2 someday, and you know.
Anything
Anyway,
else about the duck junco? Or
what else can I tell them about the junco? Sounds more like a bell of all. It sounds more musical than the 3 that we've covered so far. Number 20. Here's no. And I like whoever guessed the palm warbler. That was a close one on the last one.
I've got one guess on it so far. Okay, the 2 guesses I have is pine warbler and grasshopper sparrow.
Well, pine warbler
It
is
is
what?
It is a pine. What makes it a pine?
Well, the trill is slower, and it's kind of like, and it's I like to think of it as like lazy,
Okay.
like it's like soft and lazy.
in a coniferous.
It's usually in a coniferous forest that you would hear that one.
Okay.
All right. Last one.
They said you saved the best for last, George. I think they've got it. They guessed great horned owl.
Well, that's correct. Like great horned owl, and 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 female hoots are shorter and higher in pitch. This goes back to my fire-tufted barbet story. Um, that what? And there was a call response between the pair too. So
Well,
that's all.
George, I want to thank you for challenging us and educating us about bird sounds. Alita has been collecting questions from people, so I'll turn it back over to her and she'll have some questions for you.
Okay.
Thanks, George. That was amazing. Yeah, so I lost signal and then got signal again. So I think folks have also been messaging Sarah Johnson with questions. But I'll start off. I'll start with the first question, and then Sarah, maybe you can read some of the other questions if you received questions. So George, my first question would be to you. Are there specific things that your Audubon group does to help you, join field trips, and kind of building on that, is there anything that we can do as CCAS to make our field trips and our group more accessible?
Well, this goes back to well, what they usually do is they talk to me ahead of time and say, hey, this is where we're going. I don't really know how to answer that. You answer that, or
They usually discuss it.
they usually discuss it, and
Sometimes we scout it out.
so sometimes we do scout it out ahead of time. Like for instance, when was that? Sunday? That wasn't with the Audubon Society, but I was supposed to do a waterfowl tour up at a state park where I live called Moraine State Park. Maybe some of you might be familiar with that, through the National Aviary. But the weather was interesting. But mom and I went anyway, just because we lived close, and the gentleman that was supposed to lead the tour had sent us the GPS coordinates, and we got a map, which was very helpful. So just preparation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great thing that we can do to make sure that field trips are accessible. Yeah. Thank you. So Sarah, I don't know if you want to take over. I only think I got one question. Maybe folks have been emailing you or chatting with you.
Yeah, sorry for that delay. So there are a couple of questions, but I did want to make you guys aware of a resource that is offered by National Audubon Society. It is a map of accessible parks and places that are, wheelchair accessible, also have, good pavement, boardwalks, places that, if you're having trouble with footing, actually, they're very accessible. So that's something that we can actually contribute to as just people of, the public. We can submit sightings or whatever it may be to say, like, this is a location that is really accessible. There's a platform or whatever that helps map those places so that we can plan different, birding outings to better adapt to those types of conditions. So anyways, I just wanted to make that available to you. I'm going to try to find the link and send it out before our chat is done, but I haven't found it yet. But moving on from that, we do have a couple of questions. And the first is, George, thank you so much. I feel like you probably used Stokes' audio bird guide. Did you use that audio guide when you were learning bird calls? Because that's the one I used, and a lot of the bird calls were the same. But there's a lot of people asking, what was your audio guide that you started using when you were trying to learn bird calls?
Well, I did use Stokes. I'm glad somebody pointed that out. But I used several, and this depended on the area that I was studying. I used a lot of, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Peterson Field Guide series. You should be. Or there's another gentleman that has done some phenomenal recordings of the birds of North America. His name is Lang Elliott, Lang and then Ellliott. I'll maybe put his name in the chat if we can. And then another gentleman that I use is Stan Takala, and he's done a lot of state-specific bird recordings, birds of Pennsylvania, Ohio. Somebody told me he did one for Minnesota. And then there's also the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology, Macaulay Library. They have also put together audio guides. Their main recordist is Jeff, what is his name? Keller. Yeah, Jeff Keller. Now what I like about his work is that he does what they call regional specific bird recordings. So what you'd have is like bird songs of, let's say, southeastern Arizona and Sonora, Mexico, or the Rocky Mountain states and provinces, or what's another one that he did? California, Pacific states, Pacific Northwest. You know what I mean?
Right, because you have regions of the sides of the country, but then within smaller regions, that was something that was mentioned earlier, even with the Yellowthroat. Sometimes depending on the area or the region, you can get different, very slight differences in that call that can help you identify them, right?
Right. And then there's another gentleman that I wanted to mention. There's John V. Moore. This is Moore is his last name. And he, as far as the US neck of the woods, he did a recording of bird songs and calls of Lake Tahoe. But his primary focus is Ecuador, okay? Like Central and South America. So you have and again, you have the regional specific parts of Ecuador. You have, but that's not what we're talking about.
That's okay. That makes a lot of sense. It's true. There's
anybody.
No, that's great. That explained a lot. And I think, just knowing where you are can tell you a lot about how that bird might sound. Also, you mentioned about kind of if you're in the forest or out in the open, or if there's other sounds in the background that can kind of change the sound that you're hearing. So that was really interesting. Thanks for explaining that. We did have a couple of questions. One was, could I ask what your favorite bird sound is? If you had to pick one, now this is always one of those questions. If you had to pick one bird sound, what would it be?
Wow. That's kind of a broad question. I mean, there are a lot of, especially when you get down to other parts of the world, you can hear there there's a lot of birds that people hear, that you would hear, that you wouldn't think are birds. And one specific that I would mention, and I don't have an audio for this, or I would play it for you, is a species from Australia, and it's called a superb lyrebird. This wish we had an audio.
Maybe find something for you, George.
What?
Are there any local birds that you are looking forward to right now?
But as far as local birds that I'm familiar, as far as local birds that I'm looking forward to right now, I'm going to go back to the rose-breasted grosbeak, just because, I mean, it's getting close. You know, the rose-breasted grosbeak and the tanager.
Yeah, those I feel like within the next month or so should be arriving, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah. But as far as the lyrebird, if you haven't heard an audio of that is, it's unbelievable. And I don't know, has anybody ever had experiences with northern mockingbirds? How many?
I have no messages in the chat about it yet, but definitely something I've experienced. Someone also mentioned the superb lyrebird, so they knew what you were talking about. And someone else said the chainsaw bird. So I guess people recognize them from the different weird, like, photo camera clicks or the chainsaw or all those strange sounds they make.
Well, you know what? There is another bird in South America that sounds like a chainsaw, and it's called the capuchin bird. It's also called a calf bird, CALF. We actually have two females of these at the aviary, and they're in a family of birds called the cotingas, which is CONTINGAS, and they have a unbelievable, like, they have a unbelievable sound that you can't mistake for anything else.
That's funny. Roger said when he lived in southern Missouri, he had a mockingbird that sang all night long outside of his window.
Yeah. That brings up, back in 2005, I had the opportunity to go to Orlando, Florida. And as you know, mockingbirds are the state bird down there, or some of you may or may not know. And and of course we went to Disney World, and one of the other gentlemen that was with me happened to be a fellow member of the Audubon Society. We could hear, we chased the mockingbird down for like maybe about an hour and a half. I'm like, okay, where is that thing?
I love it. They're so chatty. A lot of people in the chat have mentioned how catbirds are very similar, where they're just very chatty and very noisy, and they have a lot of different calls.
Yeah. We have them up where I live, And the way you can, and the way their alarm call sounds just like a cat.
Yeah.
And
It's true. This is great. We've had a lot of great questions. Megan said meow. They do sound like they make a little meow song.
yeah,
And
you've probably heard one or two of them.
oh, absolutely. Alita also said she loves trumpeter hornbills from South Africa, which is where Alita is was born and raised. And she said that they sound like wailing babies.
I think I've studied an audio of that. Sounds familiar. We have what the heck kind do we have at the aviary? Shoot, my mind just went blank. So, what the heck species do we have hornbill at the?
Maybe
Not right
ground
now.
hornbill? I know ground hornbills are often found in zoos, the really large ones that walk on the ground.
Oh yeah, we had a southern ground hornbill
Yeah.
for a while. We
That's
did
funny.
have what they call a rhinoceros hornbill, which is an Asian species. I can't think. Red-billed. We had the
Oh.
we have the red-billed hornbill up where at the aviary. We also have another species at the aviary. Speaking of easy birds to birds that people hear before they see. I don't know if Alita, have you ever heard of a bird called I guess you would say a hadada ibis?
Yeah, it's the call of my people. It goes, Arida. Yeah, you hear them every morning and every night, and they're obnoxiously loud. And yeah, we say it's the call of our people because it's standard South African sound out there.
Yeah. Well, we have about we have about, I don't know how many we have, 5 or 6 of them. And when they get going at the aviary in our wetlands room, I always have to tell the visitors, it's going to get loud in here. Luckily, it only lasts for like 30 seconds. But
yeah, I don't know. I feel like Adidas have the audacity to always sing like just as you're taking your afternoon nap. They plan it that way, and
Yeah,
it's really, really loud.
Yeah. I remember a guest had a question, and we have several of them in here, several of them in the room. And a guest had a question, and I was answering the question. And when I would stop, when I would talk, the birds wouldn't say anything. But as soon as I would stop talking, then that would be like, then they would start talking again. It took me about 10 minutes to answer the guest question. I just remember sitting there thinking to them, "Shut up!"
Yeah, they are very loud.
Yeah, they're very loud. Yeah, they're very, very loud.
One last question before we start to wrap up and see if anyone else has any other questions. The thing I wanted to know is, what advice would you give people? I'm sure they're very inspired by your ear and learning how to try to hear these calls, remember them, and store them to memory. Like, what are some of your suggestions for really, really listening to the bird song and trying to put it to memory?
Well, that's where phonetics come in. Remember, I gave you a couple of my phonetic clues that I use. Like for the yellow warbler is sweet, 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 little more sweet. And then for you gave me a new one for the yellow warbler. I forget what it was.
It was sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet or something like that. That's what I always remembered.
Yeah. But I usually, this is another thing I usually do. They gave me the Audubon Society gave me an award for my birding abilities in the field a couple years ago, and they gave me a 2-cassette set of all of the warblers of North America. Seriously, there's 57 species on this thing, and it has both the songs and the call notes. So if you ever want to get that one, that's by Donald J. Borer and William W. H. Gunn. So I study that, especially around this time of year, getting ready for the warblers to come in through during migration. But when you do study the field recordings, when you do get a bird recording, just learn a few species at a time, because I can guarantee you it's not easy, and some of you are good ear birders, and I'm not saying you aren't, but it can be quite a challenge. And you know what always gets a mess for me is shorebirds. We're talking like plovers, sandpipers.
They all sound so similar.
Yeah, the whole plovers, sandpipers, dowitchers, yellowlegs. I mean, you get the idea. Turnstones, stilts, and what?
Maybe if we live closer to where there's shorebirds.
And maybe if we live, I have to tell you, when we did that bird count for May 2020, I purposefully did not review the shorebirds, because with the location we were at, we didn't think we were going to have a shorebird. We didn't think we were going to have a shorebird, and the next thing you know, we come out in the afternoon, there's a spotted sandpiper, and I'm like, oh great. I guess I should have reviewed the shorebird.
Oh, I love it.
But
So
does
I
that
think,
does that answer
think,
your question?
Sarah, does that answer your question?
It does. It does. That's a wonderful answer to that question. And I really appreciate all of the tips and tricks you've given us tonight. And as so far, I don't have any other questions coming in, except one said, if you want to participate in the Big Sit, thebigsit.org is a good place to visit. You can sit and listen and bird. And it's a really cool community science option. So otherwise, everyone said thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and tips, and that it's an inspiration, and a lot of people are looking to really hope to develop their listening skills. So thank you.
I agree, and I think we should definitely have a part 2 later in the year. George, if you would be up for it. I think folks definitely want. I see a lot of people saying yeah. So
I would definitely be up for it. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know if is Roger still there? Or,
He's still there.
Yep. I don't know. Would you? I don't know. Would what? Maybe we can come up with something together that some of the other birds, that some of the more challenging ones that that we didn't do tonight.
We are up for the challenge, George.
We can do that. That's no problem.
Okay, well, maybe maybe I can throw a couple of South African species your way and see.
I was just about to say tonight was a little challenging for me. I'm just gonna admit it. Like, everybody's guessing chirping sparrow, and I think that I've never ever heard this bird before. Yet I have them on my balcony. So
Well, there's a if you want to get a bird recording from South Africa, there's a couple good ones out there that I can recommend. The good one is it's from Guy Gibbon is the recordist name, and this thing has like almost 900 species on it. Like, you can get it on either CDs or cassettes. And then I don't know who did the other South African recording. I have one other South African recording that's good. I'll have to look and see who did that, and maybe I'll send that to you in the chat or something.
it sounds good. You can also email me. I'd appreciate it. I think I should catch up on the American birds first, since I know none of the American birds. I think I guessed Cardinal and Robin when we were practicing, and then maybe the owl. You know.
Learn your North American ones first. That's what I did. And you know what else I would recommend you do is learn other wildlife.
Yeah, for sure.
Learn other wildlife. This will go for your other. This will go for all of the people that are here tonight. Learn other wildlife, and by that, we mean frogs, insects, mammals, and if you learn those, that definitely paints a picture of the so like all the frogs are waking up now, and like, I don't know if any of you know your frogs by ear, but we have there's one that's around here that's called the spring peeper. One
of my favorites. That's one of my favorites of all time.
Do we have anybody here that knows their frogs by ear? Or?
George, that's going to have to be yet another topic. I'll tell you what, I want to thank you on behalf of the Champaign County Audubon Society. You have more knowledge in your little finger than most of us do in our whole bodies. And we really appreciate your willingness to share it with us. So you and I are going to get together again, and we're gonna work out another presentation. How does that sound?
Okay, that sounds great.
And I know it's getting late there in Pennsylvania, so a big Bonnie, thank you for working through your technical difficulties, and George, thank you so much for your presentation. And we'll see you next time, okay?
All right, we'll see you next time. It's been great.
Thank you for your patience.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everybody.